This is Jamie Drummond with Good Food Revolution. I'm here with Steve Beauchesne from Beau's Brewery, Van Cleek, Ontario. How are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Now, the first question I'd like to ask you is, can you remember your very first taste of beer?
I can remember not only my very first taste of beer, but my very first taste of really good beer. So the first taste of beer was 13 years old, going camping with my cousin. He snuck a can of Old Milwaukee from his dad, and we had it in the tent. It was pretty horrible. On my 18th birthday, though, I went with friends to Montreal. We went to a cool little pub called Mad Hatter's, and they sold Boreal Rousse, and that was my first taste of what I would consider real beer. And to this day, I've got such a sweet spot in my heart for Boreal Rousse and everything that they do, simply because that was my sort of eye-opening moment, and I was lucky enough to have it, right as I was coming of age.
Did you come from a brewing family? Because I know that you work with your father at the brewery. Was that something that your father always did, and you were introduced to at an early age, or did you find yourself falling into that?
No, we were both pretty novice when we started the brewery. I'd been an amateur home brewer and a big fan of craft beer, but my father really hadn't had a lot of experience with craft beer at that point. What happened with us and how we got into it was my father was running a textile business in Van Cleek Hill, and that whole business, once free trade came in, just basically the whole industry died in Canada. So one by one all of his customers were going bankrupt, and he was sitting there really with an empty building and nothing to do in it. He came and visited me one day in Toronto, and we were kind of just throwing out ideas of what he could do with the rest of his life. And somewhere in there, we said, you know what, Eastern Ontario really needs a really high quality craft beer. I said, well, Dad, if you're serious, I'm willing to quit my job, sell my house, and move back home to help you start this off. And so we spent the rest of the day dreaming up this brewery we were going to start, and the next day we sobered up. It still seemed like a good idea, and we just went with it.
Now, you're coming up for your 5th anniversary, are you?
That's
not?
right.
Your 5th birthday, and you're doing something quite special to celebrate that. You have some interesting things going on.
Yeah, absolutely. We've made being sustainable and being good to the community as one of the hallmarks of our business. I think it's more important for a business. It's as important for a business to be a good business ethically as it is to make good beer, and so that translates into being certified organic. It translates into our community giving programs, but because we're turning 5 and we've kind of reached this milestone, we really wanted to do something to really take it to another level. So what we've done for the last 8 months, we've been aging our most extreme beers in bourbon barrels to give it just a extra wonderful character and just so much extra complexity. And rather than just releasing them when they're ready, what we're doing is we're starting up a futures program where for $300 you will get 10 bourbon barrel-aged beers a year for 3 years. And what we're going to do is, when the money comes in at the start of the program, we're going to use that money to solar panel the entire brewery. And so we've got the application in already, and we're very excited to get this off the ground.
That sounds like a fantastic concept. I like the idea of getting these beers sent to me by mail. That sounds good. If our mail service gets its stuff back together.
Exactly. We'll have to work out the legalities on the delivery side, but yeah.
Now, how many beers do you make at Beau's at the present moment in time?
I think this is one of the things that makes us fairly unique. We only have one beer that we have all year round, and that's Lugtread Lagerdale. It's our flagship. It's our firstborn. It's our baby. When we first launched, we thought we'd have 4 beers available right away, full time, and the sales for Lugtread just caught on so strong, so amazingly fast. We were left with no tank space. So for the first year and a half, all we had was Lugtread. We finally, every time a dollar comes into the brewery, we reinvest it into more equipment. And so we finally had enough dollars come into the business to buy some new fermenters, which gave us a bit of extra capacity. And we said, well, you know what? Rather than releasing one more brand to go along with Lugtread, what if instead we start up a seasonal program? That way we get 4 more beers that we can drink. And so it took a little while to get the whole year going, but so we now have 4 new very complementary beers to Lug Tread, but very different beers, so that throughout the year you've got those 4. Then again we kept investing, and suddenly we had a little bit extra tank space again, and we said, well, instead of taking one of the seasonals and making it full-time, what if we just start releasing one-off extreme beers? So we started up what we call our Wild Oats program, and that's where it works out to about once every 6 weeks. We release really the most interesting extreme beer we can possibly imagine.
One every 6 weeks?
Because that's how much tank space we have.
And these are really small batch beers, though.
Yeah, so it's one batch for us works out to, it's 1,000 bottles. They're individually numbered, so you know exactly what number you got in the batch. And that's the way we've been running it.
Well, one last thing, as we're just about to run out of battery time. A little something about your Oktoberfest that's coming up in, you guessed it, October.
That's right. It's the first weekend of October. This year it's going to be 3 days long. This year we're expecting 10,000 people, and we're going to raise $50,000 for charities. We always choose one food charity or nonprofit, one national charity, and one local. So it's going to be the Vankleek Agricultural Society, Good Food Revolution, and the Red Cross. And so that's the really best part about it. The second best part is how awesome it's going to be. We're going to be releasing 5 of our own Wild Oats selections for that day, for those days. And we're also going to have our fall seasonal as well as our Lug Tread, obviously. We're also going to have a cask festival inside, so there'll be 25 casks from across Ontario and Quebec from other brewers. We're going to have an import section where you can get beers from around the world. We're going to have speaker series. We've got speakers coming from Denmark, Great Britain, Toronto, Quebec, really well-known people that really know their stuff. During the day, we've got really good traditional Bavarian music. At night, we've got some of my favorite, at least, independent artists like Lowest of the Low, Drag the River, Jim Bryson, Cuff the Duke. It's going to be just a crazy 3-day party in a tiny little town of 1,800 people. We open up the brewery the whole time for self-guided tours, so you can wander around with a beer, and we get local home brewers to answer questions about how the beer is made and all that sort of stuff. And it's an insane fun party. There's a whole activity section where if you feel like being active, you can do a keg toss, you can do a malt sack race, a spouse carrying competition, you name it, it'll be there.
Steve, thank you very much for joining us today at Good Food Revolution. We look forward to catching up with you very soon, all over Toronto, all over Ontario, and particularly at Oktoberfest.
Awesome, thanks.